Hi, this is Swati, and in this video, we will see a very interesting quadrilateral tree of class ninth. So, here, what is quadrilateral tree? So, in this chapter, we come across a lot of questions that every parallelogram is a square, or every rhombus is a rectangle, or every kite is a rhombus, all kind of questions. So, it's very difficult, very confusing for a lot of students. So, I thought I will explain you the tree and share a very magical property here so that you can solve all the questions, all the statements, true or false statements very easily in just 1 second by the magical property. So let's get started. Now, a four-sided polygon is a quadrilateral, we all know, and we have so many types of quadrilateral. Now let's see how do we prove. So to prove, we will first see the tree. Now, a four-sided figure is a quadrilateral. Now, in the quadrilateral, if I prove one pair is parallel, let's say this one pair is parallel. One pair is parallel. So then that quadrilateral becomes a trapezium. This is a trapezium. So a quadrilateral, if we prove one pair is parallel, it automatically becomes a trapezium. Now, this trapezium, if you prove that both pairs are parallel in this trapezium, if I prove both pairs are parallel, both pairs are parallel. So then what kind of quadrilateral does it become? It becomes a parallelogram. You know that parallelogram, both the opposite sides are parallel to each other. This is parallel to this and this is parallel to this. Now we have the parallelogram. Now, in this parallelogram, if I prove this parallelogram, all the sides are equal. So, if this parallelogram may all the sides are equal. So, let's say all sides equal. So, then this parallelogram becomes a rhombus. So, in a rhombus, you know that it's a parallelogram, opposite sides are parallel. So, in addition to that, if I prove all sides are equal, that means all the sides are the same length, then that parallelogram becomes a rhombus. Similarly, taking the parallelogram again. So, in this parallelogram, if I prove one angle 90, if one angle is 90 degrees, so then this parallelogram becomes a rectangle. So rectangle is a parallelogram. So with all the angles 90 degrees. Right here in the rectangle, we know that opposite sides are equal and parallel. So this is parallel to this is parallel to this. Also, opposite sides are equal to each other. So these are very basic properties that we have learned from, from grade 7th. So now coming to rectangle. So in a rectangle, all sides are equal, opposite sides are parallel, all angles are 90. In addition to this, if I prove that all sides are equal, if all sides are equal of a rectangle, then that becomes a square. So this is a square with all sides equal, all angles 90, opposite sides parallel to each other. Okay, so this is a square. So, have I completed all the quadrilateral types? No, I have missed one. What is that? It's a kite. So, kite does not fall in this family. This is all a family. But kite is a separate family where adjacent sides are equal to each other. It is a different family, you can remember. So, kite in which adjacent sides are equal. So you can see this is a tree. Trapezium. I will again repeat. A quadrilateral is a trapezium when? If you prove one pair is parallel. Now, if in a trapezium you prove both the sides are parallel, it becomes a parallelogram. Now, taking parallelogram can be made to rhombus as well as rectangle. So for it to be a rhombus, you need to prove all sides equal in a parallelogram. Then it becomes a rhombus. Now rectangle, when does a parallelogram become a rectangle? If you prove one angle is 90 degrees. Now you can make a rhombus and a rectangle to a square. So a rhombus is a square when a rhombus is a square one when one angle is 90, right? A rhombus is a square one angle is 90. Similarly, a rectangle is a square when all the sides are equal. So if you see this, a square is a special quadrilateral. Square is a special quadrilateral because it inherits all the properties. It is a parallelogram, you know, and it inherits all the properties, right? So square is the special quadrilateral. Now we have come across a lot of statements like this, like every square is a rhombus, every square is a parallelogram, every square is a rectangle, right? We have come across all of this. And this is very true. Every square is a rhombus, every square is a rectangle, every square is a parallelogram, and so on. Why? Because square inherits all the properties in it, right? Now let us see some questions of these. Every square is a rhombus. This is true. Every square is a parallelogram, rectangle, because it is a special quadrilateral. Square is a special quadrilateral and it inherits all the properties. Now, every parallelogram is a square. Is it true or false? Every parallelogram is a square. So let us see this. Firstly, let me draw a parallelogram. I think we will do this later as well. One sec. Okay, every parallelogram is a square. Now let us see. Firstly, let me draw a parallelogram. Okay, this is a parallelogram in which opposite sides are parallel and equal. Whereas what is a square? Square में all sides are equal and opposite sides are parallel. Right? Now here, what all properties do we have here in a square? All sides equal, plus all angles 90, isn't it? All angles are 90, right? So these are the properties of a square. Now, if we prove in a parallelogram, if we prove these properties in a parallelogram, only then it becomes a square. But if you do not know this, you cannot proceed. You need to know the basic properties. What are the basic properties? Only then you can proceed further. So the properties are very, very important. You should know the properties, basic properties. Now, so when can you prove that a parallelogram is a square? If all sides are equal in a parallelogram and all angles are 90. But are these properties eligible in parallelogram? No. In parallelogram, all sides are not equal. Opposite sides are equal. Also, in parallelogram, all angles are not 90. So a parallelogram is not a square. A parallelogram is not a square. So it is false. Next, every square is a rhombus. Now, every square is a rhombus. How do we see that? Firstly, let us draw square. All the sides are equal, right? And opposite sides are parallel. Similarly, rhombus. Rhombus also all the sides are equal. Opposite sides are parallel, right? But in addition to this, what all property do we have in a square? What all property do we have in a square? In addition to this square, all angles 90, isn't it? All sides equal, right? This is the property of square. Whereas rhombus also all sides are equal. Correct? Rhombus also all sides are equal, right? So, a square is a rhombus. It is true. A square is a rhombus because in a square all the sides are equal. Also rhombus all the sides are equal. Square has additional property that all the angles are 90, but that property is not required in a rhombus. That is the extra property, right? Okay, now next one. Every rhombus is a trapezium. Is every rhombus a trapezium? Let me draw a rhombus. Rhombus, all the opposite sides are parallel and all sides are equal. But what is a trapezium? What is a trapezium? In trapezium, only opposite sides are parallel. One pair is parallel in a trapezium. But rhombus has extra properties, right? In rhombus, two pairs are parallel. But what do you need to be a trapezium? Only one pair is parallel. So rhombus has extra properties. So this is definitely true. Trapezium needs lesser properties than a rhombus. So it is true. Trapezium needs only one pair parallel that rhombus already has. So it is true. I hope this is clear. Now next. Now here these kind of statements are little tricky, right? I can see. But I will share a very magical property, interesting property by which you will feel easy, to do this statements. But also you need to know the properties of each. Now let us come back to the tree again. Here let's see the properties. Now if I come from top to bottom, if I come from top to bottom, a special property is adding, right? So when I'm coming from top to bottom, every time the bottom one has a special property, isn't it? So then always it is false. False means every trapezium is a parallelogram. False. You're coming from top to bottom. Every parallelogram is a rectangle. False. Every rectangle is a square. False. Every square is a rhombus. False. So when you're coming from top to bottom in the tree, all the statements are false. Let me mark this. Top to bottom, false. Because why? Special property adds. Every time a special property is adding. But when I go from bottom to top, all the statements are true. Now come back to the tree. Come back to the tree. Yes, from down to top. Every rectangle is a parallelogram. True. Every parallelogram is a trapezium. True. Every square is a rectangle. True. So when you go from down to up, all the statements are true. When you come from top to bottom, it is false. And when you go from bottom to top, it is true. I hope this is a very interesting. So you are answering in just 1 second. Every trapezium is a parallelogram. False. Again, every trapezium is a rectangle. False. Every trapezium is a square. False. Now, every rectangle is a parallelogram. Bottom to top. True. Every rectangle is a trapezium. True. Every parallelogram is a trapezium. True. So I'm just answering in just 1 second. So this is a magical property. I don't think that you will take so much time in creating this tree. So once you have this tree in place, you can answer all the statement questions. Right? Now let us see some more statements. Every rectangle is a rhombus. Now come back to the tree. Every rectangle is a rhombus. So what do you think every rectangle is a rhombus? It should be, is every rectangle a rhombus? No, it is not. Because for it to be a rhombus, it should be parallelogram. All sides should be equal, right? But in a rectangle, opposite sides are equal. But the reverse is true. If I see that every rhombus is a rectangle, then it is What do you need in a rhombus? What do you need in a rhombus? See, let me draw the figure and show it to you. Now, every rhombus is a rectangle. For it to be a rectangle, you need to prove opposite sides equal and parallel and one angle 90. So to prove it to be a rectangle, you need to prove opposite sides equal and one angle 90. So opposite sides are equal, right? In a rhombus, opposite sides are equal. All sides are equal. But every rhombus is a rectangle. What is a rhombus? Rhombus mein all angles are not 90, right? Rhombus, not all angles are 90. But for it to be a rectangle, it should be 90. So this is again false. Every rhombus is not a rectangle. I hope this is clear. So this is the magical property. Understand the tree, draw the tree, and then you will be able to answer all the statement questions. So in my next video, I will take you through the most important questions of quadrilateral. So if you haven't subscribed it, please subscribe and never miss an important update. Thank you. See you in the next video.